Hello friends, I hope you all are doing well. I, CA Pujin Kapadia, welcome you all on my today's lecture of the subject Banking Paper 6. Friends, we have started with the topic of central banks since our last 4 lectures, under which we have covered several things. The first lecture was all about introduction, meaning, definition, short questions, and lastly we have discussed objectives and purpose of central bank. Why central bank? Fine, that was our first lecture. Moving ahead to the second lecture of this particular unit, in this particular part, we have discussed how the central bank has been origin and how it has grown in our own country, that is origin and growth of central bank in India. Like you are very well aware, RBI was established in the year 1935. It was nationalized in the year 1949. Till date, till now, it has been performing fabulously. So what all are the steps? We have learned it phases in phases. Third lecture was basically about the functions of central bank, or I can put it the topic in another way as RBI as the central bank, under which we have covered the list of functions that are performed by the central bank. In the last lecture, that was our fourth lecture, we have started with the topic importance of central bank in economy. So before starting today's lecture, I would just like you to give the brief of what we have covered in the last lecture. In this topic, basically, I was told we are just going to study two important questions. One which we have already covered in last lecture, and one which we are going to cover today. So, central bank in economic development was the one that we have already covered in the last lecture. And today we are going to deal with central bank and economic stability. In the last lecture, we have basically covered what all are the points, what all are the functions which are being done by the central bank, what is the contribution of the central bank towards the economic development of the country. In this particular slide, we have put the focus on important three words. First was to ensure sound banking system. Second was to see that commercial banks are operating in a sound and a prudent basis. Third is formation of two important markets. That is for long-term needs, capital market, short-term needs, money market. Next was to advise to the government on economic matters in general and financial matters in particular. Then we have started reading all the functions one by one. I have told you that in exam, if this question comes, central bank and economic development, first of all, you are going to write the introductory points that I have mentioned over here. Then what you are going to do is you are going to point down each and every function that I have written over here, and you are going to explain the same in detail. So we have covered all the functions. I'm just stopping over here because there are certain important words that you need to learn. First was NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. The bank who is primarily responsible for the agricultural sector in our country is NABARD. Second is regarding small industries. You can see over here SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. Then we had IDBI again for industrial sector, and for infrastructure sector we had IDFC, Infrastructure Development Finance Company. This is what we have covered in the last lecture, and then you have tested your knowledge with 3 MCQs, which I guess all might have got correctly. So now moving ahead on the topic of central bank and economic stability. I hope you are ready to learn this along with me. Before starting about what is economic stability and what central bank has contributed for economic stability, let's study why inflation. Fine. So what we are going to study, why there came inflation in the country. First point I've written over here is between 1870 and 1914. Fine, that you can see over here, between 1870 and 1914, when the world currencies were pegged to gold standard. Pegged means the value of the world currency were totally linked with the gold standard. That is the gold prices which are prevalent in the country. Maintaining price stability was a lot easier because the amount of gold available was limited. So during this particular phase, that is from 1870 to 1914, all the currencies prices were being totally linked. They were directly attached to the gold standard, and the quantity of the gold available was limited. As a result of which, it was much more easier to control or to make the price stable. Then, consequently, monetary expansion could not occur simply from a political decision to print more money. So inflation was easier to control. For example, if I feel in India, I am feeling shortage of currency. So what can I do as of now as a government or RBI? I can issue printing of new notes. But during that particular phase, it was not possible because each and every currency of every country was totally directly linked to the gold standard. As a result of which, government cannot directly order printing of new currency notes. As a result of which, the question was of inflation was out of the purview. But then, in the third point, at the time of outbreak of World War One, when the first World War happened, the gold standard was abandoned. So, what was the main outcome of World War One? One of the important outcome from banking viewpoint, the gold standard that was prevalent till 1914 was being abandoned. That was no more in practice, and it became apparent that in times of crisis, because it was World War, so almost every countries were involved in that particular crisis. Governments were facing budget deficits. That is, they were started feeling shortage of funds because it cost money to wage war. If you want to do war with certain countries, you compulsory need to have fund along with you so that you can do the war. And needing greater resources would order the printing of more money. If I want more amount of money in order to facilitate the war with some another country, I definitely need more amount of money. And now I was having limited quantity of gold, fine. As a result of which my prices were totally linked to that. But after World War One, this gold standard was abandoned. Why? Because each and every country felt that we require more money in order to stand or fight the war. So what the all the countries decided? They started deciding printing their own currencies. As a result of which, there were more supply of money in an economy. So the prices of each and everything were high. And as a result of which, it resulted into inflation. You all must be aware what is inflation. It is an increase in the overall prices. It is rise in the price level of each and every item. So basically, what in crux I can say over here is in 1870 to 1914, entire world currency, that is currencies of each and every country, were directly linked with the gold standard. It was prevalent. Moreover, the gold was limited in quantity, so there was no instability. Fine, the proportion was also fixed and the amount was also fixed, as a result of which there were no more up and down in the prices of the currencies. But after the World War One, what happened? Each and every country started feeling the need of the more money because they want to stand and they want to fight the war. As a result of which, the gold being limited, it was being abandoned from the standard. And what all the governments did was they were started printing more and more currencies. Now it's a simple economics funda. If the more money supplies in the economy, it would be going in the hands of the public. The demand would increase, as a result of which there would be the inflation, that is increase in the general price level of each and every goods and services. So this was the major reason of inflation after World War One. I hope I am clear with this first one. Now let's see, what do you mean by price stability? Price stability is usually interpreted to mean a low and stable rate of inflation maintained over an extended period of time. See, first of all, let me make it clear. Price stability doesn't mean that your price is stagnant at one particular point for lifelong. Fine. We are not talking about stagnancy of a price. What we are talking about is we are talking about low and stable rate of inflation. For example, I wish that the general price level in my country should increase continuously, say at 1%. So 1% is something which I can consider as a low, and in all the coming years, this level should increase only by 1%. So I can say it is a stable rate. See, this is just an example, fine. But just to explain you guys, what I want to say is price stability is not to remain stagnant, constant at one particular point. It is growing, but growing at a low and a stable rate. For example, चीजें महंगी हो रही है, होने दो, no issues, but at a low rate and at a stable rate. So this is what basically price stability means. It is a low and stable rate of inflation maintained over an extended period of the time. Now we are talking about second point, that is foreign exchange rates. Central banks also regulate exchange rates. We know that central banks are the custodian of foreign exchange reserves. We have already discussed this in the function of central bank. So central banks also regulate the exchange rates, that is rate of exchange, as a way to control the inflation. What they do is they buy and sell large quantities of foreign exchange to affect the supply and demand. What central bank basically does is at that time it feels that Indian currency, I'm giving the example from the viewpoint of India. So I'm telling, if the central bank, that is RBI, is feeling that Indian currency is going to devalue a lot in the world market, And what it is going to do is, it is going to increase the demand of Indian currency in the world market, as a result of which the balance is being maintained and the exchange rate can be stabilized. In short, central bank plays an important role in bringing stability of the value of their own currency in the world or the global market. So this was the point about the foreign exchange rates. Third point that we are going to study in detail under this heading is components of monetary policy. You all know what is credit control, what is credit creation. If a central bank wants to maintain the equilibrium of money supply in an economy, if the central bank wants to control that money should not be going in excess or there should be no scarcity of fund in an economy, it takes resort to certain monetary policy tools components. So what are the basic components of monetary policy? First is reserve requirement, second is open market operations, and third is interest rate operation. In the coming slide, we are going to deal in detail how each of this factor is going to affect the money supply in an economy. See, after all, price stability is all the entirely the game of money supply. For example, if the money supply increases, as it happened in the time of World War I, what will happen? General price level will come up and it will result into inflation. What happens if the money supply is low? People will start feeling scarcity, as a result of which you may face the deflation. What I want to say over here is, you just remember first point, that was why inflation. You need to write about gold standard and outbreak of World War I. Second is what is price stability. Third is how foreign exchange rates are being managed by the central bank. And fourth is components of monetary policy. So I would request you to just take a quick view over this particular slide, because all the points which are written over here, you need to memorize them, because they are in a form of, they can be asked in a form of short question. Well, friends, I hope you have taken a quick view over all the 3 points which are stated over here. Now let's check out how the monetary policy components actually help me in bringing economic stability. As the central bank is responsible for price stability, the central bank must regulate the level of inflation by controlling money supplies by the means of monetary policy. As I discussed in the last part, that if I want to maintain economic stability in my country, and what I am supposed to mainly control is money supply. That is, I should ensure that there is not excess fund, excess money going into the market, neither there should be scarcity of funds in the market. So what I need to do is, I need to control the money supply. And how, as a central bank, can I control the money supply? By implementing the monetary policy. Now let's check each and every points. See, there are 3 points in which I have explained 3 different components of monetary policy. First point is, the central bank performs the open market transactions. First, let me explain you what is open market transaction. We mentioned in the last lecture about government securities. Basically what I told, I have used the word of government bonds or government securities. Now what the government or a central bank does is, they either buy this bond from the market or they sell this bond to the market. So open market transactions are nothing. They are just purchasing or selling the government securities to the market or from the market. Now let's see how it is explained over here. Central bank performs open market transactions that either inject the market with liquidity or absorb extra funds, directly affecting the level of inflation. Open market operations are the key means by which a central bank controls inflation, money supply, and prices. Now let's understand with an example. For example, let's take a situation. I feel that there is a shortage of fund in an economy. For example, what I'm telling is, I'm feeling that there is a shortage of fund in an economy. So as a government or as a central bank, what am I supposed to do? I need to infuse more funds in the economy so that it can reach the public. So have you got the situation? What I feel as a central bank or a government, there is shortage of money supply in the market. There is shortage of money supply in an economy. So what I am supposed to do is I need to give more funds to the market. Now, how can I manage open market operations or open market transactions in this particular point? What I'm going to do is, my purpose is to give more money into the market. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to purchase, as a government of RBI, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to purchase government securities or government bond from the market. So what I'm getting the government security or government bond, in exchange of which what I'm doing, I'm paying to the public, that is into the market. So on one hand I'm receiving the government security, on the other hand I'm paying out money. So the money that I'm paying is actually flowing into the market. I hope I'm clear with this. So what I'm doing as a RBI, I am purchasing government securities, in exchange of which I am giving money to the market, as a result of which the scarcity problem of money supply in an economy can be easily be tackled. In short, this is how the central bank manages the open market operations. When it feels that there is scarcity of money, what it will do? It is going to purchase the government securities from the market and going to give money to the market. If it feels there is extra money, surplus of funds in the economy, what it is going to do is it is going to sell the government securities. So now what will happen? Market is going to purchase. It is people, fine. People are going to purchase the government securities. So the extra fund which was lying with the people is coming back to me. In short, this is the open market transaction, that is buying or selling of the government securities. I hope I'm clear with this particular point. Let's move to the next component. To increase the amount of money in circulation, what I want to do is, again I'm feeling the situation is such where there is scarcity of funds in the market. So what I'm supposed to do, I want to increase the money circulation in the market. So what the central bank is going to do is decrease the interest rate for the borrowing. What it is going to do is, it is going to decrease the interest rate. Now it is a common understanding, if banks start giving loan at a cheaper rate of interest, there will be more persons who are trying to take loan from the bank. It is but nature. If I was planning to take a house, fine, the rate of interest of the home loans was 10% before, and now it is only 7%. Now as a purchaser of a house, as a person who is looking for a loan, who is a prospective borrower, when he will go for a loan at 10% or 7%, answer is of course, जहाँ पे मुझे सस्ता गिरेगा, I am going to enter at that particular point of time. As a result of which, I am going to take or borrow funds from the bank at 7%. So the crux over here says, when you want more funds to be going into the market, what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to decrease the rate of interest. So more people are attracted to borrow money at a low cost. Fine. Against which, if I feel there is surplus of money in the market and I want to catch the money back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the rate of interest. So what people will be getting demotivated, जो मुझे 7% में मिल रहा था, अब उसका अगर गवर्नमेंट 10% कर देती है, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टेक लोन एट 10% because I know I want to take loan at 7%. So what I'll do, I'm not going to borrow more, and at the same time the rates of deposits will also increase. I'm going to park my fund, invest my fund with the bank. In short, the cash flow which was available free in my hand, now what I've done is I've transferred or invested the same with the government. As a result of which, rate of interest is the second point which comes to the rescue to the central bank in order to manage the money supply. I hope you are clear with both the points. First was open market operations, that is buying or selling the government security. Second is rate of interest, that is either increasing or decreasing the rate of interest. So what is written in the third point is again the same. When it needs to absorb money to reduce inflation, the central bank will sell government bonds on the open market, which increases the interest rate and discourages the borrowing. So they are talking about 2 points over here. One is interest rate and another is open market transaction. There is also the third component that we saw over here, this one, reserve requirement, of which there is no mention, but I would like to also touch this particular point. Let's take an example of CRR that we have already studied in the point of functions of central bank. What is CRR? Cash reserve ratio. You all are now very well aware that all the banks are supposed to require a particular proportion of reserve with the RBI. Now, if central bank feels that there is excess of fund in the market, economy में पैसा ज़्यादा है, What central bank wants? They want to catch back the funds that is in excess in the market. So what it is going to do is it is going to increase the CRR ratio. For example, as of now, the amount of deposit that a bank is having with me, uska 3% is being supposed to be kept by the bank with RBI. So what the bank is sparing about as a reserve? 3%. Now if RBI says, nahi, ab aapko kitna rakhna hai? 5%. So now what is going to happen is banks needs to set apart additional 2%. अगर बैंक एडिशनल 2% आरबीआई को दे रही है तो उनके पास 2% कम रहेगा. As a result of which bank will be in a position to lend, to advance 2% less amount than what it was advancing before. Suppose पहले मैं 98 rupees दे रहा था, अब मैं कितना दूंगा? 96 rupees. In short, what I am doing, I am giving less amount to the public because I am keeping more amount with RBI as a reserve. So what was the entire purpose of RBI? That it wants to increase the reserve ratio, as a result of which the free money in the hands of bank will reduce, and so lesser money will go out of the bank to the public. So this is how the reserve requirements also take the role of monetary policy component. I'll just request you to go through this particular slide very quickly so that you can be clear about the open market operations and the rate of interest. Well, friends, I hope you have gone through the points which are written over here. So let's move ahead to the next point. Central bank tools for promoting economic stability. Now, basically, there are certain tools over and above what we have already studied in form of monetary policy components. So this is the basic tool. Fine. So if a question comes, central bank and economic stability, first of all, you are supposed to explain why inflation. So we are going to talk about the gold standard and the World War I. Secondly, what we are going to define is what is price stability. Then we are going to talk about foreign exchange reserves, and then we are going to talk about the monetary policy components, that how the reserve requirements, how the open market operations, and how the rate of interest can affect the supply of money in an economy in order to bring stability in the market. Now there are certain tools over and above that which helps in promoting the economic stability. Let's take it one by one. First is macro prudential analysis. What is macro? Basically, it is at the entire national level. Identifying the vulnerabilities, that is the loopholes in the financial and non-financial sectors and potential shocks in these markets is a vitally important part of central bank's work. Central bank constantly do the analysis of what? Of finding the vulnerabilities. That is, what are the weaknesses? What are the loopholes in the financial and non-financial sectors? And what are the potential shocks, that are the threats that this sector can face? Why do central bank do this particular thing? Is this analysis help them to plan well in advance that how they can overcome all the weaknesses, how they can overcome all the potential shocks that they can be facing in the near time. So as a result of which, by this analysis, central banks are pre-prepared to deal with the consequences that they are going to face due to these vulnerabilities. So they prepare themselves for all the shocks that may be coming in future and ensure that there is no instability kind of situation in the economy. So this is about macroprudential analysis. Let's move to the next point, microprudential regulation and supervision. After deciding or analyzing at the overall national level What it does, it decentralizes each and everything and see on a particular sector wise, on a particular department wise, on a particular business wise, so that a regulation and supervision is placed on each and every sector, on each and every business unit, in order to see that there are no loopholes remaining at a micro level also. Deposit insurance are the important elements of maintaining system-wide stability. Now, what is deposit insurance? I have already discussed this particular point in the topic of origin and growth of central bank. Deposit insurance is basically whenever you are keeping fixed deposit with any of the banks, those fixed deposits are covered with insurance. मैंने आपको बोला था, if बैंक को कुछ भी हो जाता है, in that particular scenario also, your deposits are secured up to a certain limit. Before it was 1 lakh, and from this year it has increased to 5 lakh rupees. So your deposits are secured by 5 lakh rupees. As a result of which, what will happen due to this? Investors are going to trust, they are going to have faith in the banking system. As a result of which, there won't be sudden instability. कई बार क्या होता है, if you are afraid, if you doubt the existence of that, you are going to withdraw all the money quickly. But due to this deposit insurance, investors feel secure that that money are going to remain safe with the bank, as a result of which they can ensure stability. So first what we studied, macroprudential analysis, that is analysis of vulnerabilities, that is weaknesses and potential threats, shocks that a banking sector or a non-banking sector can feel. उसके लिए पहले से central bank pre-planning कर लेगी. Second was microprudential, that is at each and every department level, unit level, business level, sector level, and to gain faith or trust what they have passed this deposit insurance scheme. Next point, emergency lending to individual banks. Central banks routinely offer liquidity against the specified collateral requirements. Collateral means security requirements in order to support the orderly functioning of the markets. Sometimes there may be a situation where any particular bank may face crunch, liquidity crunch, that is shortage of fund. In that particular point of time, central bank come to the rescue of that bank by providing emergency lending. Now just imagine a situation. There is XYZ bank which is facing the liquidity crunch. Now there are 5 to 6 depositors, big investors who are coming to the bank and saying they want to withdraw their deposit. For example, the total of the deposit of all those 5 to 6 depositors is 6 crore rupees. Now just imagine if a bank says no, that we are not having money, so we cannot pay you now. Those 6 people will communicate that to all the person, as a result of which a rumor will come in the market that bank has gone unstable and there will be the entire instability in that particular banking infrastructure. In order to avoid that instability kind of situation, what a central bank does, if they feel that there is a genuine requirement by any of the eligible commercial bank, this RBI or the central bank is going to do the emergency lending so that they can timely repay the deposits they have taken from the investors. And the last point is, as the operators of payment systems, we all are well aware, we have seen in the function that central bank is the optimum clearing, settlement, payment bank. So as operators of payment systems, central banks often have the unique expertise to identify potential risk and handle the stability problems. When you are paying, fine. So whenever you are settling the claims of various banks, you get to know that certain bank is facing scarcity or certain big customer is facing any kind of shortage of fund. As a result of which, you can get to know the problem before it is actually going to commence. So you can already take beforehandedly the necessary steps in order to avoid the situation which can lead to economic instability. This is nothing. This is just a data that you are already having with you, and you can pre-plan everything before the things actually occur. They should identify the liquidity risk like operational issues and participation failures. What is operational issues? Whenever I am doing my regular business, if there is certain flaw in that particular system or that particular method of doing the thing, it is known as operational issues. What is participation failures? That is any of the parties to the contract. That is in case of I am getting a bank from XYZ, I am getting a check. Fine. So XYZ bank is one of the party. I am the another party and my bank is the third party. We are not going in detail as of now, but what you need to remember over here is if any one of the participant fails, that is it becomes incapable of doing the business. For example, XYZ bank is giving me the check, but it is not having any balance in his account. What will happen? My check is not going to clear. As a result of which, to avoid this kind of failures, what operators as a central bank will do is they will identify all the risks initially, and they will handle all the stability problems. In Crux, this is nothing. This is just analyzing and forecasting the possible ways that instability can enter the infrastructure and avoiding all this particular thing so that we can prevail the situation of economic stability in our own country. Just giving you a minute, take a quick look on all the words which are mentioned over here. Well, friends, I hope you have seen or gone through all the points which are mentioned over here. So basically, this is all about the answer of central bank and economic instability or economic stability. What we are going to write over here is first is, as we have discussed, why inflation. So the period of 1870 to 1914, all the world currencies were pegged to gold standard. So the prices were linked to the gold. But after World War One, all the governments felt the necessity of money. As a result of which, they started printing more money, more money supply in the market, leading to inflation. Second is, what is price stability? It is not like that the price is sticking to a particular level. No. What is it? It is basically low and stable rate of inflation maintained over an extended period of time. ग्रोथ होना चाहिए, प्राइस में थोड़ा राइज होना चाहिए, but it should be low and it should be stable over a longer period of time. Next is foreign exchange rates. What government do? They buy or sell large quantities of foreign exchange in order to maintain the demand and supply of our own currency in the global market. Next is, in order to bring stability, what is supposed to be controlled? Money supply. And in order to control the money supply, what we need to do? We need to pass the monetary policy. And in monetary policy, we are having three different criteria. We are having three different tools which we can use in order to ensure that money supply is under control. What are these three tools? First is reserve requirement, the example of which I have given you, cash reserve ratio. Second is open market operations, that is buying or selling the government securities. And third is rate of interest, that is you are going to adjust, that is increase or decrease the rate of interest according to the situation. And lastly, we studied certain macroprudential analysis, that is identifying weakness and threats beforehandedly so that we can avoid that particular situation of instability. Micro analysis, that is basically going business wise, sector wise, individual unit wise, so that we can see strictly that regulation and supervision is going on continuously in order to ensure there is no situation of instability. And second is, in order to ensure that there is a trust, faith among the investors, there was a scheme called deposit insurance scheme. Emergency lending is being provided to the genuine eligible banks so that they do not face any situation of liquidity crunch, and so people can maintain faith in them and we can avoid the situation of instability. And lastly, as the operator of payment system, I am very well aware of the entire data that is lying among with the several banks and about the participants. So I need to be pre-aware about the operational issues or the participant failures, and I should stop this particular thing beforehandedly so that there maintains stability in the economy. So this is our entire answer, and I hope you are clear with this particular question. So now again, I am having 3 MCQ to test your knowledge. I'll be giving you 25 to 30 seconds for one MCQ. You mark the correct answer along with you. After the completion of all the 3 MCQs, we are going to discuss the correct answers. So I hope you are ready for the same, and your time starts now. Well, friends, I hope you are ready with your answers. So let's check them. The first question was, gold standard was abandoned at the outbreak of World War. We have studied, it was answer World War One. So the correct answer is option A, 1. Question 2. Components of monetary policy do not include. We have studied three different components of monetary policy. First was interest rate, second is open market operations, and third is reserve requirement. So the correct answer to this particular question is option D. Deposits and advances is not a component of money policy. As a result of which correct answer is option D. Question number 3. To increase money supply in an economy, what I am supposed to do? I want to increase money supply. That is, market में पैसा आना चाहिए. Government will dash bonds from to the open market. What government is going to do? उनको क्या करना है? Market में पैसा देना है. So government will going to buy the government bonds. If they will buy the bonds, what they are going to get? They are going to get the bonds against which what the public is going to get against it, market is going to get the money. So in order to increase the money supply in an economy, governments or the central banks are going to buy the bonds so that bond come to the government or the central bank and the money goes to the people at large. So the correct answer of this question is option A, buy. With this, I conclude the topic of central bank, and by now we have completed our entire unit 1 as per your syllabus. I hope it was happy learning, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming lectures. See you soon. Thank you, friends.